Good morning. Abstinence, experience, and strength and hope from members of Overeaters Anonymous. This one's entitled Intensive Self Care. I've discovered that a certain amount of recovery doesn't mean that bad things won't still happen to us. What it does mean is that I don't have to make my troubles any worse by eating over them. 1991 was a very bad year. 3 weeks into it, my mother was hospitalized, and I flew back to New York with just enough clothes for a few days and a funeral. Instead, I wound up spending 3 weeks in a waiting room outside an intensive care unit. During my hospital vigil, I wasn't able to prepare any meals for myself, yet I was able to eat abstinently the whole time. I ate in restaurants, relied on others to bring in food, and lots of takeout meals. I don't ban any foods, but I do try to make the most of my choices. I try to make most of my choices healthful. In this situation, that wasn't always possible. Even though I wasn't able to get to a single OA meeting, the program sustained me during this ordeal. My higher power provided me with an OA buddy whose father was also in intensive care. I spent many nights burning up the phone lines to program friends in California. I wrote a lot and prayed even more. I read program literature and listened to tapes. Most importantly, I knew my higher power was there with me. And that's what got me through. When I returned to San Diego and stepped on the scale for the first time, I was amazed. Despite weeks of inactivity and stress, my weight hadn't changed. It was a very valuable lesson. I'd been abstinent for 4.5 years, but I'd never been tested like this. Even if my food choices weren't those I would have made at home, I'd been able to feel I'd been able to feel, participate in life, and be there for my family. I hadn't succumbed to my disease, even back in the city where I first honed my compulsive eating skills. My mother lived through that crisis, yet I knew it would only be a brief respite. Yesterday, a message on my answering machine informed me that she had been admitted to a hospice. So I provoked an argument during dinner and didn't get to finish it. My compulsive thinking told me that I hadn't eaten enough and that I should finish off with a dessert. There I was, staring at the goodies in the freezer, when I realized with gratitude that no taste sensation would be able to take away my pain. All I could do was share my feelings with my higher power, close the freezer door, and pick up the phone. This comes from a member in San Diego, California. Yeah. Um, in the other fellowship, I had a very similar experience around, I don't remember how much I had, maybe 3 years clean, and my mother passed away. And yeah, it was the most emotion that I experienced clean. Um, the bigger emotion that I felt that got me clean was when my dad died. Um, but so my dad's passing got me into recovery, and my mom's passing really anchored me in. I knew that I was going to do this stuff for real and for life. Um, and I felt every one of those feelings, and it wasn't like it took a week or a month or a year to really process that whole thing. But the first moments and days and weeks were incredibly intense. And everyone in my circle supported me through that process, and just like this member is speaking about, it's like the meetings, my responsor, um, the literature, praying, working the steps, doing the program. And it wasn't like I had to work the program hard to get through it. I don't recall feeling any temptations to give away my abstinence. Um, and my mother died of this disease, overeaters, of compulsive overeating. And and I remember that was one of my strongest emotions is when I walked into her house. I was the first one there. And I went and grabbed a huge like garbage can from the garage, not a little one, a huge one. And I yanked it into the kitchen and into the pantry, and I just with a volcano of what felt like rage but was really just hurt and despair, I filled that trash can with every kind of sugar bomb there could possibly be in a insulin dependent diabetic's house. Just total insanity, total grip of the disease. And you know and the good news is that I processed all that to the best of my ability while I was in those moments. I did not jump off the cliff with drinking or drugs, so I stayed clean and sober. And I didn't really truly know that I eventually would need to embrace this program. And, and I've been dealing with my diabetes for 15 years. Is that right? Maybe almost a little more. Somewhere between 15, 16, 17 years I've been dealing with this. And I was in denial, well, not complete denial, but mostly denial for probably the first 10 or 15 years. But I've really embraced that surrendering process in the last few, and been getting some really good results. Um, you know, I finally really truly understand that this is a disease that wants to kill me and is doing everything in its power to do it on a daily basis, moment to moment, with each and individual choice that I come up against around how and where and when and what I eat. Um, and this simple, I mean, for this member to say that she does not restrict any food, I forget where it said that. And I'm kind of rambling right now, but it touched off a thing. Um, I don't ban any foods, and part of me that scares me. You know, I see an awful lot of food that I should not eat on a regular basis, and every day at work, I see tons and tons and tons and tons of food, and I mean, I'm not joking. It's by the ton. I don't know. I see, let's call it a couple, two, three, maybe 4,000 people roll through with full baskets. And, I'd say it's probably 80 to 90% of them are filled with junk, all processed, all boxed, all super heavy, sugared, starched, just gnarly, nasty, disease ridden death bombs. It's just like my mom's pantry just completely full of disease food. And the simplicity of what I'm doing is I pray, I surrender, I make a plan for the day. I I've been texting that plan to a food sponsor. I've been feeling pretty solid. Definitely a little, well, I've been feeling solid all year, and I'm slowly fine tuning what I think is going to be working the best out of this program, and that's going. I'm going to figure out how many meetings I need to go to a week. The idea of doing a 90 and 90 is a great idea. You know, whether I actually truly hit that or not. I didn't go to a meeting last night. I said I was going to do a meeting when I came home from work last night, but you know, I came home, I ate an abstinent meal, and I was tired, and I called it a day. I'm not really big on doing nighttime, spiritual recovery stuff. I'm just kind of done. I know a lot of people say it's like that's when they work their 11th or 10th step and they have a whole evening ritual before they go to bed. And I've never had it, and I'm almost certain I never will. So I put all that spirituality work in the beginning of the day and I roll. And so, I don't know. It's good stuff. I'm going to do the rest of my morning dew. I'm going to write down a meal plan for the day. I'm going to submit that meal plan to a food sponsor. And I've got time today to go to a meeting today. So that will happen once I'm done here. And, you know, and I've got the 12 steps OA step guide on its way. I don't know, it might be here in another few days. And I'm going to go over that with my in-person local sponsor. I mean, I literally just saw he and his wife yesterday at work, and they may not be working the OA program specifically, but they're solid AAs. I mean, they're 30-year AAs, and they are working their own form of physical recovery, and we all are. But our journey's a little different, and that's fine. But I'm gonna ask him if he's okay with me working the step working guide. The thought I have is to work for 4 through 9 through that step working guide, specifically around my eating and feelings around that and resentments around it. You know, because the irony is that I didn't witness it per se, but in a way, the after effects of my mother's passing. Um, but I've over the years I've had resentments about how my mother taught me how to eat as a kid, and I don't hold that resentment anymore. I mean, I've done all that work, done that hardcore ninth step work to completely forgive her. But I'm willing to go through those steps with a focus on the food, and just to solidify my surrender for today and to embrace, you know, clean, sober, and abstinence into my recovery process. And that abstinence really can fall into so many different things. It's definitely for compulsive overeating, it's for compulsive under earning and debting and gambling and relationships, so codependence, and basically any and all other 12-step fellowships that I could glean some benefit from. I'm open-minded enough to reach out to any of those 12 fellowships or 12-step fellowships to improve my life, right? I want the most out of this thing, and so, just having fun in recovery. That's how I feel. Having fun in recovery. That's what I was told to do back in the day. Anyways, have an abstinent day today. We'll see you.